are the music makers, and we are the dreamers of dreams.
This subject, as you all know, once disclosed properly and in a hopeful and productive way, would leave no aspect of life on this planet unchanged, up to and including the complete rearrangement of our macroeconomic system, our energy system, political system, social system, and ultimately major religious systems and thought.
Where is fancy bread? In the heart or in the head? Shall we roll on?
That, of course, is enough to keep the brakes on anything. Because as a very interesting guy at the Jet Propulsion Labs once told me, he said, you know, he was talking about these obelisks and other objects on the moon, on Mars, and some of the other structures out there, which do exist, by the way. And Buzz Aldrin even recently called for going back to Mars to investigate them, right? You may not know that, he did. And, but this guy at JPL said, you know, we can't disclose that to the public. I said, why not? It's old stuff. These are old structures, millions of years old. This is not something a few thousand years old. He said because it would show the ancient connection between other civilizations and the development of intelligent life on Earth, and that would collapse the foundations of every fundamentalist orthodox belief system of every religion on Earth. I said, well, good.
Try some more.
We were able to prove that both in your country and in the United States, the president, the director of the CIA, the top people at the Pentagon and the intelligence, the J2, head of intelligence, Joint Chiefs of Staff, the head of the Defense Intelligence Agency, which is as big as the CIA, but is its own in-house thing at the Pentagon, all of whom I personally briefed, every single one of them to a man, and including your Lord Hill Norton, had been denied access to these projects. Now, when I got threatened in 1991, 92, 93 by some folks from the agency and the FBI doing what I was doing, I said, really? Come put on the bracelets. You want to get on the dance floor? Let's get on the dance floor right fucking now. Excuse my French. Because I will clean your clock if this goes to trial and you try to put me in prison, because I will be able to then hit subpoenas to this CIA director I briefed, and to these generals, and to these admirals, and to your MOD head. And when they testify that we don't know anything about these projects, they're unacknowledged special access projects which are illegal, I'm going to have you point, set, match. So just stay out of my way. And they did, because I haven't been imprisoned. And I put on the street many, many top secret documents.
Little surprises around every corner, but nothing dangerous.
The other part to understand is nothing important of any strategic significance is above the surface of the Earth. If it's above ground level, it's not really that important. It's fungible, replaceable. Everything critical is underground bases, all throughout the United States, Australia, Pine Gap, and also here in the UK. So anything that is critically important is not sitting above ground. You're not going to see it with a spy satellite, you're not going to see it from an aircraft, and access is multiple levels of entry. I've been in a couple places like this. So that's basically how it's managed. Super secret, illegally, and they tell the people they think they can manipulate. But they will tell certain people a little bit of information if they think they can manipulate them by giving them a little piece of it, usually a distorted piece.
There is no life I know to compare with pure imagination.
We had a president named Reagan, who put all this effort into the SDI, Star Wars Initiative, which is really a cover story for putting platforms in space targeting interstellar vehicles, which is what we're doing.
Don't be alarmed.
It really had nothing to do with Brilliant Pebbles. That was all just a cover story. The real money was going into interstellar targeting and tracking of these ET craft and shooting them down, which we've been doing for a very long time. And they told him just enough information in a xenophobic way, in a way that was scary, to get his cooperation with that project. And that's why at the UN, if you Google it, you'll see that Reagan said, wouldn't our job of creating
worldwide
unity and peace be easier if we had a common alien threat
from
to
outside
unite against?
this world?
Very familiar theme. Douglas MacArthur in 1950s, his last address to the Congress, said World War III will be interplanetary. This has been planned since I was 1 year old. I just turned 60 in June. This secrecy has to do with another whole issue, and that is creating the psychological propaganda and the juggernaut so that people will accept the cost of the next level of militarizing the planet. Going from, and actually Wernher von Braun said, it would go from the Cold War to nations of concern, rogue states, to global terrorism. This was all in the disclosure stuff before 9/11. And then objects in space that could be a threat. You hear all this stuff about asteroids and stuff, to playing the final card, the alien threat, of which there is none. But it'd be great if people could be convinced there is, because they could support then, instead of $1 trillion a year coming into the military system, it could be 5 trillion or 6 trillion or 8 trillion, because the whole world, like the movie Independence Day, would unite. Let's kick alien butt. You see? It's jingoism of the worst kind of propaganda and brainwashing, which 99.9% of people who study the UFO subject have been completely infected with. The real action at the Skunk Works, just like at Lockheed Martin, my uncle's old company, my uncle worked on the lunar module, the thing that landed on the moon, put the first man there. Northrop Grumman, SAIC, BAE Systems, MITRE Corporation. There's a whole constellation, Raytheon and E-Systems. The real high end of it is the trans-dimensional physics, the technologies, the ET issue, anti-gravity, wrong word, electromagnetic-gravitic systems, high voltage systems you put over something it can float and zip like that. In 1954, October, there was a man who is on our team, worked with us for many years, has recently passed away, so I'll mention who he is. Third highest ranking guy at the Naval Research Labs, the largest Department of Defense labs in the United States, named Rick Foch, F-O-C-H. He was in the vault and saw documents where in October of 1954, we had mastered gravity control. So a lot of the things you see zipping around are not interstellar. Many of them are ours. And there's the state-of-the-art research facility at the Lockheed Skunk Works in the high desert of California, near the Edwards complex, is a subterranean facility called the Cube, C-U-B-E. And it's a cube-shaped facility deep underground. It's connected through underground connectors to the Nellis Range, mistakenly called Area 51. No one calls it that in the business, by the way. That's a misnomer. The real action there is at Pahut Mesa, Groom Lake, S4, S9, and S12. Those are the proper names. Blackjack Control and Blackjack Operations. I have a document, it's the first document that was in the Obama briefing that lists the code names and project numbers on there. That's a National Reconnaissance Office document. By the way, NRO, National Reconnaissance, they run all the super secret birds, spy satellites. Amazing stuff that they have. And if you go to their headquarters, it says over the door, "We own the night." And I turned to some people on my team, I said, well, we need to own the light. They can have the darkness, we'll have the light. But that's their motto, we own the night. And you can see anywhere, anytime, through cloud, down to anything you're reading. And you can be talking to a friend on the top of Mount Everest or anywhere else, they'll hear every word you're saying if they want to know it. That is true. Ben Rich said this. There are no private conversations anywhere on Earth, number one. So forget Snowden stuff with, PRISM. I mean, that's like level 1 intel gathering NSA. It is. It's like, it's not even, because the president knew about it. And so the Senate, if they knew about it, it's like 40-year-old technology. It's true. Absolutely true. Because the real action's in the unacknowledged special access projects. The ETs are not unwilling to make contact. They're not unwilling to make contact with buffoons or militarists or people who have an antiquated pre-Diluvian worldview that anything we don't understand, we have to shoot and kill and knock down out of the sky. You see? But these were highly conscious people, very on board with the philosophical underpinnings that are the prerequisite of contact. It's going to get spun by the spinmeisters who have already primed the pump with Independence Day, the movie, video games, the whole abduction, mutilation cults, which, by the way, quick part of that story, man-made. I know the guys who are making the craft and the little grays and other creatures that look like aliens. Those are programmed life forms that are man-made. We've been making those for decades. You know about this? Yeah, absolutely, 100%. So, in fact, I have a Strategic Studies Institute document, SSI, uncontested, from the mid-90s, 96 I believe, that states about creating a global UFO abduction cult for the psychological warfare value of it, using advanced man-made objects and life forms. So the Stan Romanek tape that I've seen wasn't released because Disney bought it up and took it off the market. Disney's always been in the back pocket of CIA. Yeah, since World War II, by the way. Absolutely true. I have a document that proves it. It's a fascinating document. It talks about, a CIA document from the 50s talks about Disney Studios making cartoonish movies about this subject so it would be ridiculed and be a laughingstock. So Disney bought up this tape, but if you look at it, it's this kind of, it looks like a typical gray. It's walking very robotically. And the man who, where it appeared in his house, had someone in the intelligence community that I think used to work with his father in the Air Force say, it's one of the fake ones. But the UFO and MUFON investigators and this gentleman had no idea what a fake one was. I said, well, in the 80s, there was research that came out that showed that there are these man-made, military-operated kind of androids that are nano-bio machines, so they have integrated circuits in their cerebral cortex. It's easy. Do ETs believe they have a God? Yes, I'm sure they understand that there's universal awareness, and they may not call it what we call it. But it would be more of a Jeffersonian concept of a supreme universal conscious being. Because here's the nature of TSSCI, top secret special compartmented intelligence. The one person has a little piece and another person, and they're all in compartments, and the left hand doesn't even know the right hand exists.
Should never doubt what nobody is sure about.
So a lot of people think there is a grand conspiracy, but it's not what most people think. And so you have victims, whether it's in royal families, in your military, in your intelligence, in your parliament, and in your 10 Downing Street over here. So yes, that part, so there are interstellar objects out there, and there are man-made electromagnetogravitics that can go a certain point, but my understanding is that we're not allowed to just go way out there. So yes, we have a secret Air Force and a secret Space Force, but I think sometimes the stories get a little bit embellished and get too far out.
Hold your breath. Make a wish. Count to 3.
There's no earthly way of knowing
He's singing.
which direction we are going. There's no knowing where we're rowing or which way the river's flowing.